One of us is getting over an illness. The other one is also getting over an illness. And this is the first episode 2 weeks into the new year because flu season. And it's cold in California. Yeah.
See, the funny thing about that is because we're doing this all through Discord, I can't hear the
it's fine.
So it's just funny because like all of a sudden I just see the video roll and I'm just like, well, I know to be quiet.
I gotta shut up now. There's no audio, so you could have talked. It would just been to me.
We've had anchors at my station that would not have recognized the need to be quiet.
Guys, when the video plays, you don't say anything. Although you could have talked, I would have heard it. It wouldn't have come through because I only have that channel.
Oh,
so you've been good. Yeah,
we have a rule at our station. It's so basically when anything but like an anchor mic is playing, but all the anchor mics are down, it plays on what's called the foldback system. And so it plays out over like the loudspeakers out in the studio.
Yeah, like
so
your
that way
PA.
they can hear it, like your floor director could hear it and everything. So that tells them like, hey, your mic is down. And yet we still occasionally have some anchors who like we're like not like quite into the package and they're like blah blah blah. And you're like, no, shut up. So anyways.
Okay, that was all right.
That's a day in the life of Bryce Prince Gaming. Thank you guys. Have a good week. I'm just kidding.
Okay.
I'll just get my video on loop and you can do the whole podcast on your own. With me just over here like
yeah, just nodding away to what I'm saying.
You're like, Bryce, are you an a-hole? And I'll be like,
yeah, I should do that. But it'd just be like, Bryce, you're going to trade me your first round pick next year in the fantasy draft?
You know who my first round pick's going to be?
Puka Nacua?
Puka Nacua.
Yeah, wow, what a shocker that is. Well, I guess we can start. I guess we can start the
second round.
I guess we can start there with your Rams taking on the Lions on Sunday night.
Setting records. He's the record holder for rookie most catches and most receiving yards in a season.
So why are the Rams going to lose on Sunday night?
They're not.
No. You don't think they are?
No, they got hot. They're going to the Super Bowl.
That is a bold claim that I want to say.
Bowl, baby.
That I want to say is wrong.
You want to say it because you don't like the Rams.
I don't. I hate the Rams. I've despised the Rams ever since I was a kid. I think coming out of the NFC is going to be the Niners, 1,000%.
You're probably right. I'm a homer. So
but the whole thing, but realistically, I could see it being the Niners Rams as in the title game, because the Eagles are not playing well, and we all know what the Cowboys are going to do. Stink it up. If the Cowboys,
well, and Stafford's gotten hot at the right time. I mean, look, I think the Rams are scary for any team because Stafford's hot at the right time. He's got Kupp and Nacua.
He's got
and Tutu Atwell's a decent option as well. And
I think that's the one thing.
Is a good enough tight end, and
I think that's the one thing you sort of look at all the teams in the NFC, and if you look at strictly from the perspective of like wide receiving cores, in Dallas you have basically just Amari Cooper. In San Francisco is probably the closest with when you have even the Rams really have three viable weapons, maybe four. Like the Niners have, Debo, they have Ayuk, they have McCaffrey, they have Kittle. So like they're also loaded with weapons. The Eagles have weapons, but their defense is like Swiss cheese. And then kind of looking, going down further, the Lions have Amon-Ra St. Brown. You got the Packers have Jordan Love, and I think he's gotten hot at the right time too. You have teams, but I will say,
product.
huh?
I said Utah State product, Jordan Love.
How do you feel about that?
I like it. I
But
like Utah State.
But
I'm not one of those. I'm one of those BYU fans that if we're playing Utah or Utah State, yeah, I hate them while we're playing them. But the moment that game's over, it's like, all right.
But
how's Utah doing?
Yeah, but ultimately, just looking at like the weaponry, it does sort of seem like the Rams are going to be in that like status of where they can probably do well with both of them. Watch us be wrong Monday after they play on Sunday night.
Well, one of us is going to be wrong, right? Because you're saying they're going to lose.
No, I think it'll be better. I think it'll be a good game. The one thing, and this is really true of the NFL. When it comes to like the playoffs, the younger teams and the teams without experience generally don't do well for the most part. And I think that's going to play even though they are home. When you have the team of like, okay, Stafford and Cup have been here before. Aaron Donald's been here before. You know, they've been there before. I think that plays a little bit more. That's also the same reason with like Love and Green Bay.
See, but if there was a team that I wouldn't mind losing to, as fan of the Rams, it's the Lions.
Let's not make the Lions a bunch of lovable losers.
But they are. That's who they are.
Yeah, so they should lose to be more lovable.
Yeah, well, I look. What I'm saying is, I want the Rams to win.
Okay, that's fine.
But if the Lions beat us, I will be like, well, not the worst team to lose to.
Are you ready for
in terms of like how I feel about it?
Are you ready for that game on Peacock tomorrow night? in frigid temps.
I love Peacock because here's the thing about Peacock.
I like how you're shelling for Peacock, and this is not what I was figuring this would go.
This is not a sponsor, obviously. No. I'm not saying I love Peacock like because of any of their content or anything. I like. I'm not saying it because of like, oh, they've got such a good layout or whatever. I don't like their interviews. Okay. I don't even use Peacock that often. The reason I love Peacock is because I don't pay for Peacock that often, but basically what I do is Peacock every year they come out with like like $20 for 1 year of Peacock.
Oh yeah,
for new and returning subscribers.
Yeah.
So basically, if I time it right, I just let Peacock go. Like I won't pay for it for 4 or 5 months, and then all of a sudden, $20 for a year of Peacock, and I'm like,
thank you.
Pay for it.
That's like, what.
Thank you.
Or you get it free. Or you get it free
with Max for a while.
Or you get it free with your
Max
cable.
Didn't do it this year because HBO is like, we're losing money.
Yeah, I got it. I get both of those free with my cable provider.
Yeah. So, but yeah, now whenever a game's on Peacock, I'm like, oh yeah, I have Peacock. That's right.
I know it's gonna be weird because I think USC is gonna be probably playing a couple games on Peacock since they'll be in the Big Ten next year. Just odd to say. Speaking of the Big Ten, how about that college football championship that you didn't get to see the second half of because you had to go to bed?
I watched most of it, I think. I can't remember if I was awake when it ended because I stay up when.
I think it ended at like 8:30 my time.
Part of my schedule, but the problem is part of my schedule. As much as I try to get my girls into bed by like 8:30 or whatever,
it doesn't work all the time.
Often I'm not getting them into bed till 9.
Mm-hmm.
Even if I do get them into bed on time, a lot of the time I end up sitting in my I'm laying down on my bed and I'm like just scrolling through shorts on YouTube. And it's like as soon as I feel tired, I go to sleep. But because the problem that ends up happening is because I can never even get like that full 6 hours that I would want. What ends up happening is I have to take like a nap during my lunch break at work. And then that I think that's part of what keeps me up later in the evening. So
yeah,
my body never quite adjusts to being on early. Now, the interesting thing is this in about a month and a half, my wife is due for our last child. And
dun, dun, dun. He's switching to his own defense.
Well, yeah, but
Well, yeah.
But my wife's switching to my wife's getting 3 months off for work. She gets 3 months paid leave.
Man, what are you gonna do with all that free time?
Well, that's the funny thing is I get a month off.
Yeah.
So I'll actually like because of how my sleep schedule goes now, I'll actually sleep better with a newborn than I do.
That's true.
Going back to work.
So that's true because you're not gonna have to really adjust a whole heck of a lot.
The worst thing is when when I do go back to work and I'm working early mornings and having a newborn because the newborn will definitely keep me up until she's about like 3 or 4 months old. So It's like, it's one of those. It's just one of those things. But
Kids.
The good news is with my wife getting 3 months off rather than 7 weeks, which is what she got last time,
or 6 weeks. Yeah.
Well, no, she got 7 weeks.
She got 7 weeks.
She got 6 weeks maternity leave and 1 week parental leave. But they upped their parental leave to 6 weeks. So now she gets 6 weeks maternity leave, 6 weeks parental leave.
Wow.
So she gets the 3 months. So when I go back to work, I can actually get okay months of sleep while she stays.
Look at you. And and mind you, while we record this, she goes out and gets him canes. Or Taco Bell.
Sometimes afterwards, I'm the one who goes and gets it.
Or Taco Bell.
I'm the one who drove us down to St. George and back in the span of 24 hours. So it's a 3.5 hour drive. That'd be like you going to.
It's me going to Jake's.
So Jake's and then back and.
I did that. Well, I didn't drive it. I didn't drive it, but I did do that in like a little over 24 hours. Went up on a Saturday, came back on a Sunday. I was after the Super Bowl.
Oh man. Okay, so by the way, I am going to tomorrow. I'm going to go to the post office. So I'm gonna after this, I'll make sure to get your address.
Oh right.
So I can ship you the shirt because
I have to wear. That I have to.
You lost that bet hard.
I did.
Hard.
That bad. I don't think it was a. Well, hey, but the Washington coach is now in Alabama, so really, I technically I won in spirits.
Should we switch over to that now?
We didn't even talk about the game.
Well, we've got.
I have to admit, I want to make this. I do want to say this about it, and I think.
Oh wait, we were on the championship game. We went from like Rams to like college football championship game.
I do want to. Okay, so I do want to talk about the game. The game for a little bit. I want to get this point off because I think it's hilarious, personally, or maybe I just find it personally hilarious. One of my old bosses when I was writing is an Ohio guy through and through. Ohio State, Toledo. The Bengals for the most part. I don't think he cares about the Browns too much. But ever since Michigan won, he's been like, it's gonna get he's convinced this win's gonna get vacated, and it's just been like just shot after shot at Michigan. And I'm just here laughing where it's just like, oh yeah, it's really great when Ohio State fans are trying to take a victory lap being like, oh, their game's this championship's gonna be vacated when Ohio State scored 3 points in their bowl game. 3 measly points against what, Tennessee?
And I honestly don't see them finding anything that will vacate the.
No, I don't think so either. Because and mind you, one of my mods, Oxy, she's also an Ohio State fan. She's like, they cheated. I'm like, and I said this and I stand by it. And even somebody else, I'm like, Ox, every team cheats, every team steals signs. The only question is, are you bad enough to get caught? And even still, even the fact they got caught, they're not going to link it to Harbaugh. The only reason why Harbaugh got suspended is because Michigan got caught.
Look, here's the thing. Michigan cheated and they were pretty scummy about how they did it. Or
smart.
But the fact is they still won the national championship without cheating by any measurable means.
And plus, we all know the NCAA only takes titles and steals Heismans when the players get stuff that the player allegedly doesn't even get stuff. Their parents get stuff. In the case of Reggie Bush, who didn't get anything.
Well, okay.
Hashtag give USC did win a title in 2004, and Reggie Bush did win a Heisman, and I will stand up for that and say that until my dying breath. Give him that back. Yeah, filthy mongrels.
My issue
mongrels
isn't as much with Reggie Bush needing to get that back.
Mongrels.
It's that the NCAA instead of following that up and being like, look, the reason the NCAA lost any semblance of legitimacy is because they
set the standard so high.
Well, yeah. They came down so hard on USC, and then like just a couple years later, it was Cam Newton was I forget what the whole thing was with him.
It was like member
receiving something or something.
Let's see if we can find it.
I forget. That was so long ago, but like he also had trouble.
Are we both looking this up? I like how I put
arrested. Oh wait, no.
The NCAA acknowledged that Cam Newton's father, similar situation. Cecil Newton shopped his son to Mississippi State for nearly $200,000. He was this is all. I think this was why USC fans were pissed, because this was the exact same situation that happened with Reggie Bush. It didn't go to him. It went to his dad, and that was the same thing with Reggie Bush. Reggie Bush's stepdad got all the money, not Reggie Bush. And in this situation, they said, oh, well, it's Cam Newton. He's in the title game. It doesn't matter. But since they found it.
Yeah, that's when they lost legitimacy was with Reggie Bush. They found out about it after the fact, so they felt like, oh, okay, we're going to come down hard. It doesn't matter because that game's over. We've gotten all the money we're going to get from that.
Yeah, and they ruined.
Like, so let's come down hard. But then what the problem was they set this precedent, and then when it's Cam Newton's time, they're like, well, we can't.
There's nothing.
Out of the national title game because
it's entertainment.
We lose money on it.
It's not even the money.
It's like,
the funny part was, and I'm saying this as a USC fan, so you can tell me I'm being biased. But the biggest problem with what the NCAA, The biggest problem with what the NCAA did is it set back USC basically for a decade because of all the scholarships they lost. So they just couldn't recruit as well, which was part of the problem of why they had such a bad reign for so long. That's their problem now. What was their problem now? Alex Gritch, you got fired. Thank God. That was the problem. Alex Gritch was the problem. You had one. I said this. How many times did I say fire Alex Gritch last year? I think I said it about every game that they gave up darn near 30 points.
You know what's funny is somebody posted like, look how far Lincoln Riley's fallen from grace because he wasn't even in the discussion for the Alabama job.
I don't think he would have taken it anyway.
Well, yeah, but he wasn't even discussed.
Does it matter?
Wasn't even one of the names that all the guys were like.
Yeah, but does it matter?
Looking at blah 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 and blah blah blah.
Does it matter?
No, I mean,
hold on.
But he was still on that same track.
Hold on. Time out.
When he was in Oklahoma.
Hold on.
It was an Oklahoma fan who posted it, by the way.
I know that's the problem. It's like it's probably the same guy who said Lincoln Riley was one of the most disliked head coaches. It was from Oklahoma guy. But I'm gonna ask you this question. Let's be realistic here. The way he's set up here in California, house on the beach, he's coaching USC. That's going into the Big Ten. They should realistically be, they're gonna be in a better conference. They'll be competing still for a while. Why would you leave all of that to go to Alabama?
Why?
Why? But if you're comfortable, see, the thing is, and this is something
because you can establish much more of a legacy at Alabama than you could at USC. At USC, you're just
debatable.
another face.
The thing with USC
and go into Alabama.
No,
if DeBoer goes into Alabama and wins like 3 national titles, people are gonna be like, "Wow, we had Nick Saban immediately followed by Kalen DeBoer."
No one's gonna say that. Nobody. And mind you, no one's really gonna say that about Lincoln Riley either. But the point is when it comes, this is
my other reason, by the way, would be he could sell his beach house in California and buy like one that's like 6 times the size in Alabama. Not a beach house, but a house in Alabama that's like 6 times the size.
I'm gonna ask you.
And he could literally have like a football stadium.
Sir, you've lived in California. Would you trade a house in? Would you trade a house in Manhattan Beach, a beach house in Manhattan Beach, for a beach house on the Alabama Gulf Shore?
The only way I'd want to live at a beach house is if I was retired.
I don't understand this argument you're making.
No. You make living. Look, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying I wouldn't want to live. Okay, let me clarify that information. I would gladly take a beach house at this stage of my life, even if I was working like full time as a lawyer or something. Don't get me wrong. Are you getting ready to like mark this for a short? Bryce doesn't want a beach house or something.
No, I was gonna have somebody who lives near a beach to be like, "Hey, would you trade where you live for a house on the Alabama Gulf Shore?" No.
Well, you're asking my opinion.
Your opinion has been wrong so far. Trying to be like, I just want to.
Opinions aren't wrong. This isn't a factual like conversation we're having here.
My name's first.
Now, if you were to ask me, like, would I rather have like a beach house that's like a good beach house and like has good like whatever?
Sir, it's a beach house.
Stuff, but like I could literally just like build a custom mansion that has like literally everything I want on it. Like
this is the weirdest hypothetical ever. Of course. Oh my god. I like how you're like, I just said just a beach house in Manhattan Beach. It's gonna be fun. You're like, no, I want 6 rooms, 8 crappers, and 3 showers, and a different bath. I want a bathroom only for pooping. Like, what do you want? It's a beach house, for crying out loud. Stop getting picky about it.
I'm just saying. In Bama.
In Bama.
A house that you can build.
Roll Tide.
It'd be so much better than the one you could have in California. Now, again, don't get me wrong.
Roll Tide.
If I could have a beach house right now, I'd gladly take it. Cause like it would be awesome to wake up.
I love the simple. Fact you're like.
But like you're saying. Lincoln Riley's lifestyle right now is not like, it's not like he's getting up right now in December or in early January or whatever and being like, all right, I'm gonna just listen to the waves.
You don't know that.
Relax as I wake up. No, he's immediately waking up and being like, all right, let's check in on these recruits and hey, such and such, could you go do this? And like, he's a busy guy.
You'd be doing that in Alabama. It'd be even worse.
No, well, yes, but no.
It's just in Alabama. If he took a shit in the wrong bathroom, they'd be like, "Is Lincoln Riley okay? He's shitting the McDonald's parking lot. Goddamn! Can he handle the pressure?"
You're missing the point.
What's the point?
Not the point.
What's the point?
The point I wasn't making a point of like, wow, yeah, he'd be less busy in Alabama. No, my point was. You're talking about houses right now.
No, I'm
saying my enjoyment of a house.
My point was, my entire thing was, why would he want to give up? Because Manhattan Beach, you've lived here. Manhattan, like in Alabama, Tallahassee's not exactly near a beach. That was the only point I was making. It's like from Manhattan Beach to Los Angeles. That's not, you can drive that. You can. That's not that bad.
With the money he'd be getting from Bama, he would just be able to keep that house.
He's getting that money from USC too.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is,
without the pressures at the SEC.
Hold on.
If he wanted the SEC, he could just stayed at Oklahoma.
hold on. You need to let me finish my point here.
I'm holding.
My point is
holding.
My point isn't that he's get more money or anything like that. My point is you're making a point of like, would you rather have this beach house or have to live in Alabama? And it's like he could have the beach house and live in Bama for work. Like,
I stand by it. Do you want to live in Alabama?
I wouldn't hate it.
It's Alabama.
Alabama.
Yeah. It's Alabama.
Have you been to Alabama before?
Why would I want to go to Alabama?
I don't know. Besides, the whole point in this wasn't whether he would take the job. The point was that he didn't get considered for the job. And I don't even know that that's true.
I don't think it matters, to be honest with you.
No, and I wasn't even necessarily siding on that. I'm just saying, I was just pointing out.
I guess it is. I mean, I guess if you are an Oklahoma fan, you can sort of take the solace and see, wow, he sucks because he wasn't even considered for the Alabama job. It's like, why would he take it? But I know that's not necessarily the thought. Is so much of why would you take it versus, otherwise.
I mean, it is the premier job in college football, so
I guess.
I mean, look,
but I think it's also in the eye of the beholder, huh?
We've kind of moved on already, but let's tie this all into one big discussion where we had Pete Carroll out in Seattle.
Yep.
Bill Belichick out in New England.
Replaced by Gerard Mayo.
Gerard Mayo is the new coach there.
Mayo and Kraft, baby. Match made in heaven.
And then, what was I going to say? And
Arthur Smith out.
Yeah, but what's his name? Saban out at Bama.
Saban retires, yes.
And now Kalen, what's his face? DeBoer is the coach.
Yes.
At Bama.
Yes.
I'm just saying, lots of crazy movement.
And it's not even done yet because
it hasn't even necessarily, the can of worms hasn't even necessarily fully sprung yet, because it's going to. Because now with Kalen DeBoer going there are going to be some coaching changes in terms of the staff that was under Saban.
Yeah.
DeBoer's going to bring his own crew. And so then you're going to get guys who were committed to Bama for coaches and stuff.
Yeah, I think now, if I recall,
some receivers, and Washington's going to lose.
Yeah, if I recall,
people go to Bama. Some of them are just
because the portal for both of them, for Bama and Washington, it opens for 30 days. The next 30 days, they can transfer. So things could shake up. I don't necessarily know if they will.
Even BYU's been like looking, because there's like 5 or 6 recruits that BYU fought Washington for.
Yeah, so
so
that'll
now maybe 1 or 2 of those guys are like, well, I'm not going to be able to get any playing time at Bama, so BYU, you want that?
So I made this point with CJ when we were streaming. I don't know if you heard it or not, and it's probably blasphemous to a certain degree, but I made the point of, is Kyle Whittingham kind of looking elsewhere with some of the transfers that have been going on? Now, mind you, I have no pulse on the state of Utah or its football program or the college, but I do find a lot of the transfers or people entering the portal there to be very interesting. So I am curious if he is feeling the waters a little bit with some of these openings. At least I find interesting because you don't see a lot. You don't see these kinds of moves from players unless something's going to happen, which is interesting to say the least. Because
at this stage in his career, there's only the only thing I realistically see him doing is retiring.
Do you think he's going to retire? Because, like I said, you don't see, and I mean, you have to take notice with some of the guys who are entering the portal. Like, it's not like it's.
I don't think he's retiring this year. I think he's going to do one more season.
But do you see it on the horizon?
One good Big 12 year where he might be able to get into the college football playoff. Just
yeah, I kind of. I've had this one because I've had this wondering too. And speaking of coaches who weren't up for the Alabama job, their defensive coordinator wasn't up for it. I think that's interesting too, because I wonder if Utah's, because I know everyone's sort of talking about him becoming head coach somewhere. So I'm wondering if he'll be up for Washington. Their DC, I forget his name. I know they've been talking about
Andy Ludwig. Of course, I look up Utah defensive and it says driving course. Morgan Scally.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think he was ever going to be considered for the Alabama job.
No, for Washington.
Like Washington.
That's what I'm wondering. Like, are you going to get Washington?
Maybe. I mean, the interesting thing is for some reason, I think Morgan Scally would be more suited to be like the immediate successor to the Utah job. But for some reason, everybody I hear keeps talking about Andy Ludwig as being the guy out here in Utah. But the interesting thing with Andy Ludwig is like speaking of racism, he got in trouble a few years ago because like it was discovered he'd been sending texts using like the N-word and and like that's all been discussed. So like I don't know how much that I could really add to that, but like what I'm saying is like it's an interesting thought that Utah fans are like, look, this guy who was in hot water, it's like if he was being brought in as the head coach, that would get brought back up. So it's interesting to me that the assumption is he's the next in line, and it's like, but why? Like, wouldn't that just open up a whole can of worms with everybody being like, well, the University of Utah's racist.
Maybe. Who knows? I like I said, I found it more interesting because, like I said, you don't necessarily see these kinds of moves from guys who enter the portal without like something coming. And I think that's something to keep an eye on. But again, I don't know because I don't care about Utah. But I just found it interesting, to say the least. Oh my God, Bryce died. But we'll see. There's plenty of
I don't know.
There's plenty of coaches going on, and who knows? It'd be a lot more because you got. I mean, with Jim Harbaugh, I know a lot of people are like, "Oh, he's probably gonna go to the Raiders." Why would he go to the Raiders?
The Raiders. Oh wait.
Well, that's it. Okay, we could combine the two. So Caleb Williams is entering the last, I think, 4 days before he has to declare or come back. Apparently, he's waiting to see what the Bears are going to do. Are they going to trade the pick or keep the pick? Because it seems like he does not want to go to Chicago at all.
I'd actually be surprised if the Bears kept the pick because
that's what I'm thinking.
Seems like he's decent enough.
I made this.
If I'm the Bears, I use my 2 picks. I trade down a bit, and then I use them on really big offensive weapons. That or like an O lineman and Harrison. Harrison's back, I guess so.
I made this point, and I could see it happening. Was if I'm Chicago, I'm leveraging Washington and New York and into a bidding war and just being like, hey, Washington, you want to move up the spot? Take Caleb. And then we move down. We get the guy we want. So they get Harrison. They can get Harrison. And I guess realistically, like they could hypothetically be like, hey, we're going to take Marvin Harrison number 1. And then the commies get Caleb Williams. But like I said, Caleb
Williams, do you really want to go to Washington over?
No, I don't know. Like
Chicago?
I truthfully,
it's so weird because I feel like the culture in Chicago is at least
truthfully,
but the culture in Washington seems
truthfully, out of all like the teams where it's like they're probably gonna need a quarterback. Truthfully, the best spot for him in terms of like who needs a quarterback and coaching the best spot for him right now in terms of that fit is New York. It's with the Giants, with Dayball, and just like, because clearly the Daniel Jones thing, they were in a position where they had to sign him. They don't like we know his time's done. They're gonna get rid of him somehow, some way, because we've seen it before with these quarterbacks. They'll cut him and eat the cap hit, because if they get Caleb Williams, it doesn't matter. He's gonna be cheap for 6 years. Who cares?
But if you're Caleb Williams, do you want to go to New York?
Out of all the only reason I could say I have that inkling of like that would be a better spot is look at it this way. Out of all the positions, like the look at it this way. From this perspective, you need a coach, right?
That's just my reaction.
No, but the whole thing is like you need a coach, right? And look at the top of the draft. We don't know they're keeping Eberflus and all of them in Chicago. He clearly doesn't want to go to Chicago. At least the inkling is if he gets drafted there, he'll probably pull an Eli Manning and be like, I'm not going to play here. Trade me for somebody else.
I hate when players come in and they're like, yeah, no.
But that's their right. See, but the whole thing is like that's their right. Is be like, don't draft me. I don't want to play there. This isn't a good fit for me. He can, especially not like he has that right. And plus, in his mind, he's like, why do you want me? I'm literally just Justin Fields. You can't win with Justin Fields. You're not going to win with me. He could like that could be his thought. It's like I'm me and him.
Is that really what he's going to try to sell? I'm just Justin Fields.
No, but the whole thing, the reason why I'm saying like, I'm not trying to be like he's selling.
Not Justin Fields.
But it's the thing.
Justin Fields can only run. He has an arm.
But the thing is, it's the same package. It's the same thing of like he's mobile. I watched him play for 2 years. He's very out of the pocket. He's really like Patrick Mahomes. But what I'm getting at is if they can't do that, they can't do that with Fields. It's not going to change just because he has an arm. And if Fields knows the system, the problem is with the Bears, and this has always been the problem with the Bears, with them and why they continue to fail. They don't build around him. They haven't. They got DJ Moore, and he looked better with DJ Moore. That's their problem. You're better off doing what the Giants did with Daniel Jones, giving him weapons, and if he fails with the weapons, then you cut the ties. At this point, if you were to just draft Caleb Williams, say, all right, Fields, you're gone, send him to, I don't know, Atlanta, who needs a quarterback, who's starved for a quarterback. He goes to Atlanta, and what happens? If he succeeds there, then clearly it's a you guys situation, right? So why would you want to repeat that process with Caleb Williams if you can't do it with the guy who's got the same skill set?
I think it's interesting that you say the Giants surrounded Daniel Jones with talent. Honestly, I think the same thing would happen with Caleb Williams that happened with Daniel Jones.
But my point is, it's a product of where is he going to?
The only real talent the Giants have ever given Daniel Jones.
Where is he going to do? Okay,
Saquon Barkley, who has spent years of injury.
Yeah, but Jones can't throw. That's the difference. Is
I don't necessarily disagree with it.
People know what Daniel Jones is.
He also hasn't been given all that many tools.
But you know what Daniel Jones is. You can definitely say Daniel Jones is this. Can you definitely say Justin Fields is this? Now, mind you, they could just let him go and walk in free agency. They could make that choice. But my point is if you can definitively say we gave Justin Fields the best shot, he's not our guy. But you have to. The thing that I want to make.
I don't disagree. I don't think he should go to Chicago. My point wouldn't be
but
Chicago.
The point,
I'm saying, like, if you're saying,
heck, he can go to Atlanta. Atlanta's got the best weapon. If we're looking at weaponry, the best weapons for any quarterback right now is probably Atlanta, with Drake London, their tight end whose names escape me.
Well, I mean, if you're gonna name any team in the NFL, I would probably say the Rams would be one of your.
The Rams would be interesting, and I made this too. If the Rams wanted to suck to get Caleb Williams and get Sean McVay like the ultimate Swiss Army knife, that'd be great. It'd be perfect.
Well, I mean, look, he'd have Cooper Kupp, Tutu Atwell, Puka Nacua.
Okay, you're
another
okay.
Or two.
Your bias Homer Ram. Your bias. Okay, hold on. Back. Your bias Homer Ramisms aside, the reason why I'm saying Atlanta also would be a good spot in terms of just weapons is Drake London. You have a good tight end. I think they have two decent wide receivers. Not only Drake London, I can't remember their other one. They have weapons that are young. They can build around, and if they strike at the right time with a good quarterback. We know what that division is.
When they got rid of their coach, did they get rid of their GM too? Because the GM has made some mistakes over the past couple of years.
Arthur Smith.
Namely, honestly, I mean,
Arthur Smith sucked as a coach. Arthur Smith sucked as a coach.
Honestly, like if you're the GM, like one of my gripes with Atlanta, they've got two amazing running backs on their roster, and they only need one of them.
I mean, they could trade one of them.
They use them. No, that's what
but the whole thing too is
did they draft Bijan Robinson and then say
because it's
Algier who had a great rookie
because year. Arthur Smith's an
we're
idiot.
Just gonna leave him. We're just gonna leave him right in the bench. Except sometimes we're also gonna put him in and he'll randomly have a great game.
I think because I think a lot of that's Arthur Smith. I think Arthur Smith's just an idiot.
I'm also still mad to this day that there was 1 week where I started Bijan Robinson.
Oh, and he played like one play and was out.
He had the flu and he played one play and Arthur Smith was like,
you're good.
I don't care about fantasy owners. And I'm like, you should care about just being a decent person. Like,
yeah, I think there's a lot of things Arthur Smith did that was wrong. But back to the original point of like where fits Caleb, like any of the bad teams that are going to be bad, like he's got to be hoping like someone trades up for him. I die laughing. You said nope. Based on like all these other where things are going to fall, where I think I'm going to go, I'll just stay at USC for a year and reshuffle the deck. I think that'd be absolutely hilarious. Personally, I mean, I don't think he is. I think he'll just pull an Eli Manning and say, "I'm not playing here. Trade me." Maybe he ends up at the Chargers. How about that? That would be funny.
The Chargers don't need him. Actually, is the funny thing.
What if they What if they traded Herbert so they could have Williams and just drive the LA USC connection? How hilarious would that be?
Here's the thing, it would be a very Chargers move because it would literally not help them.
It'd be funny, but
it would literally not help them though. Like, would Williams need to step up over Herbert? I think that is a debate that'd be interesting to have. And it would honestly take seeing what Williams looks like in the NFL to know.
Oh, now it's like, okay.
Is this a step up? Because
interesting.
Herbert's a great quarterback.
Interesting.
And so
interesting.
It would be an interesting, but no, I think it's an interesting conversation to have because I'm not going to outright say, well, Herbert's a better quarterback than Williams or would be more serviceable, blah, blah, blah. I think, honestly, the Chargers, what they need is
health
offensive weapon
and health
and a coach.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously they need a coach, but it's like,
okay, let me ask you this. Okay, so if we're just sort of we're talking about this. So like looking at like who needs a quarterback and like who kind of doesn't, at least in terms of this. And I guess we should talk the Angels because, you know, that's always fun. But in terms of like teams who we know will probably, it's the NBA. Whoops. Who we know. Okay. So this is from Hankathon. You can kind of, if you want to look. So they project Caleb Williams, Drake May, 1-2. The top 3 picks are quarterbacks being Caleb Williams, Drake May, Jaden Daniels, and Marvin Harrison going to the Cards, followed by Brock Bowers, and then the Giants taking a wide receiver in Malik Neighbors. So and then by the way, which I think personally, what I think's funny is they don't have the Falcons taking Michael Penix Jr. They have him taking an edge rusher, which would be a very dumb decision. But I'm guessing they're predicating this on Russell Wilson not going there. But nevertheless, my point here being is you're in a spot where we really could see 3 quarterbacks be drafted. Now, if you're one of these sort of teams where it's like you're borderline here, like the Giants at 6, the Falcons at 8. Like I said, I'm circling the Giants as the team to watch out for a trade. That's me personally. I think the Giants are going to be very aggressive. strictly because of where Washington is, because Washington's number 2. And if anyone, they don't want to be facing Caleb Williams. That's my 2 cents.
You know who would be an interesting option if they really tried to go for that top pick? The problem is in order to get that, they'd have to give up their best offensive weapon, and it would make it so much less interesting. Is the Vikings?
That would be fascinating if they wanted
Only
to.
Because if they somehow figured out a way to do it without giving up Justin Jefferson, I would love to see a team that had Jordan Addison, Caleb Williams, Justin Jefferson.
They probably, you know what's funny? They probably,
Hawkinson.
You know what's funny? They probably could. Maybe they could. Well, see, the thing would be, it depends on what really what Chicago wants to do. Because if Chicago were to say, like, okay, trade down to 11, then what do you take? Like, I guess realistically, you could just take another line. Like, you could do what you said, like take like a tackle or something here and just be like, draft a wide out here. You know, draft a wide out at 9 and then draft another wide out at 11 or something. It's possible, but I don't necessarily think you have to give a weapon. The reason why you're saying that.
I'm just saying that would be if there was a match of like all the teams that need a quarterback. If there was a match that I said
that's not a bad one
for him to go to, I think Minnesota would actually be their best
that's not a bad one,
because it would immediately take Minnesota from a fringe playoff team to a
that's a good call.
Cousins,
that's a good call.
Playoff team, but
no, that's a
but then they're a playoff team for the next few years probably.
No, that's
with Caleb Williams, I think that would set them up for the future.
No, that's a really good call. Honestly, I didn't even think about it. That's a great call. I don't know if they would do it.
I don't know that they'll be able to trade up into it. So it's kind of one of those things where it's like, well,
I personally, I think they can. I think the only reason why, they had to trade offensive weapons because that happened last year. Historically, you don't necessarily have to. It would just be like, I think they'd be in a better position though if they were to do it, because they could just re-sign Kirk Cousins and be like, okay, Kurt, you got 2 years, 1 year or whatever. Caleb learns. Best of both worlds. It could work. Like I said, the precedent of trading offensive weapons only happened last year. Generally, it's picks. But I digress. Okay. Last part of the evening, let's talk the Angels, because apparently we had some interesting developments coming in. We'll make this short and sweet because I do not want to. I don't want to talk about this anymore than I have to.
We've talked this over. We could, if people were really interested and they started commenting, well, we want to know what all the other thoughts you had on this were. Just go back to last year when we were talking about this, when Artie was thinking about selling the team. We gave a lot of thoughts on this kind of stuff. So
I want to start this by saying, this is just me personally.
When sell the team.
No, that's the second thought. But my first thought, wrong one. My first thought mainly is, when it comes to sources, especially like a lot of blog sites and stuff, I take it with a grain of salt. But I want to point out something that sort of happened in a lot of stuff that is fascinating. So it all started kind of about a week ago, and it said, Angels win, said checking in with the trusted source, the Angels are not in any of the major free agent lefties. That could change, but from what I understand, the reason the Angels had leverage. And then they went on to define it and said they're simply not front runners like the media would like you to think. Phone calls and offers are typically always made on talented free agents of need. True. Which is true. Recent reports had the Angels enter in the mix, and none of that is true as of today. That was the first sort of inkling, and then another sort of like inkling, if you will, from them 3 days later. By all reports, it looks like Artie is in a holding pattern on a big free agent signing due to Bowley's TV deal and the Angels owner debating on selling the team. Now, let's sort of start from the top and work our way down to the bottom. Why are they concerned about the Belly Sports deal? Well, because we all know Sinclair's going bankrupt, and because of that, that's a huge source of income. Some other theories have sort of been, well, because of the because of the Ohtani situation, there's no money from that. That's a whole nother story, another longer dive into why that's really not what it seems. But ultimately, it looks like it's going to sell the team. And where did that come from, you might ask? Spects, where did this come from? Well, let me tell you. It all starts with our friends over at Locked On Angels, who I believe it was either this account or Super Halo Bros. I don't know which. Shout out to these guys. They ultimately started with an interesting claim they made about, I think, a year ago. Just wanted to put, I think it might be on the other account. It's on the other account. But nevertheless, it was basically I can just summarize it. It was basically saying John Carpino's deal's up at the end of this year. Is it weirdly could already sell at that point? And then kind of tying in with Angels Win said, it kind of seemed, found it. So this is from Super Halo Bros. This is John. He's the bearded one. Good guy. Ultimately, he said he was looking back, but he made the point. So he goes, so I was thinking about it. If I recall correctly, I read somewhere that John Carpino has one left on his deal as team president. Did he convince Artie to stay in the game for one more year? Are the Angels gearing up to sell the team after the season? And then he went back and said, found it. And there's an excerpt here where it says, one idea. Angels president John Carpino, this was last year, has 2 years left on his deal, but with the Angels for sale, he could leave. At the point, the decision was to hire Billy Epler. This was blah, blah, blah. So it's talking about this, that Carpino does not have a lot of time. His contract's up. So the short answer is the question for both him and Carpino to kind of walk away from it and sell the team because they want one last ride together. And if you're sort of looking at it too, add to it, Perry's deal's also up. So hypothetically, they could clean the entire front office out. That's where I leave that. That's all I wanted to say. I don't care about anything else because they are in a holding pattern. I don't care.
Yeah. My whole thing's still just...
I think we're sort of I think most Angel fans are into the point of just like, hey, it is what it is. I don't care. It's been years of temper expectations, and you're sort of seeing, you sort of saw how it played out. And I think you're in a position where get ready for a 4th place year, which is fine. But I made this point to the group I'm in where it's like, if this is the case, I feel very bad for Mike Trout because he's going to be in a spot where it's going to be another rough year. And
let's just be a year where they're randomly competitive.
Maybe, but I don't see it.
Shout out all these young guys who just
it could be. I would love nothing more than the real problem was it was just bad coaching.
Zach Neto comes out, hits 310.
Like I said, I would love nothing more than for that.
Has a resurgent year where he hits 40 homers and 285.
I'd love nothing more. I would love nothing more. But you're in a position where it's like you need things. You need another bat, a lefty bat. You need a pitcher, and it's like if they're not going to do it,
Rendon,
so be it.
MLB comeback player of the year.
You still need a lefty, and like I said, if you're not going to do it, fine.
Hey, Rendon hit a lefty home run.
All right. On that note, we're just going to leave it there because that is the most outrageous thing I've heard all day. Check out.
Remember?
I know. I remember. It was then the season caved in on itself. But check out our channels down below for streams and videos and stuff. Bryce doesn't do anything anymore, so whatever. But we'll see you guys all.
I stream. I missed a week because of being on vacation or being out of town.
So yeah, check us out. I got some cool stuff. I'm sure Bryce will eventually have cool stuff going back up. But like I said, have yourselves a good week, and we'll see you guys back here on Monday, and we will discuss more football. Go Niners.
Go Rams.
Boo.